Good afternoon, everyone. I must confess, this morning I was rather worried. So many speakers before me, if they say all the things that I have planned to say, what would I do? But I must also admit now, I'm quite relieved, and perhaps you'll understand why. So, before we can get into understanding insights of Krishnamurti, we need to understand what are the boundaries and limitations. This is the biggest limitation. We are all driven by success and failure, and we know that that success and failure race is the cause of all the mental ailments that we see today in the world. Thinking is a faculty which is unique to human beings. It has 4 clear dimensions. There's comparison, there's measurement, there's judgment, and there's projection. And this always takes us away from the fact of whatever is in front of us. Human beings need motivators, a pull and a push. And we have always used reward and punishment as motivators. No alternatives are available? Oh yes, they are, right in front of us. Involvement and understanding are great motivators. Involvement brings attention, attention brings discovery, discovery brings questioning, questioning brings understanding. And the beauty of it is, understanding makes you more involved, and involvement brings understanding. It's a self-feeding loop. We need to understand what is the difference between instruction and learning. Most of us, when we are teachers, we are instructors. We give a lot of information. But we never seem to ask, why do we give information? Right? The student needs information to answer his examination, certainly. How does he acquire it? Does he acquire it because we stuff it into him? Or does a student acquire information when he discovers for himself? The problem, as I understand with today's education, started in 1692 when Descartes made his famous statement, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. And for 250 years thereafter, the entire scientific discovery was based on that principle. The assumption that the universe is a big, complicated machine and everything works according to laws of mechanics. But by 1900 itself, quantum mechanics and quantum physics had been discovered. And what is quantum mechanics telling us? It's telling us energy is equal to matter, matter is equal to energy, but even more, they are converting themselves 1,400 times per second. So where is this solid world we are talking about? Where is this Bible truths which science says they have found out which are unchangeable? Nothing is unchangeable. We are still teaching our science from that state. We haven't looked at it. There's nothing wrong in teaching information which has gone out of date, provided you also point out where it has gone out of date. Some of the impacts of quantum mechanics are not just in physics, all the sciences are impacted. Take this assumption which biology makes, all memory is in the mind. There's never been proof for that. Scientists have searched for 150 years, they haven't found proof that memory is stored in the mind. Today, developments in computer, cloud computing give us a feel that memory can be kept outside the brain. The moment you posit that memory is outside the brain, the way you approach education has to completely change. And that stage is long past. We have not done it yet. So that asks the next question, what exactly is understanding? How does it happen? It's not the same as acquiring information. The human being, very clearly, is not one composite being. There's the body, there's the energy, there's the mind, by which I mean thinking, feeling, emotion. But beyond that, there is a discriminating intellect, and much beyond that is the capacity to be happy, which is what we call bliss. Information is only at the level of the body, the energy, and the mind. Understanding is from all dimensions of the human being. So just giving information doesn't necessarily result in understanding taking place. We give so much importance to marks and numbers, we miss out one very, very fundamental aspect of it. I'm not condemning marks. And that is, when we give a number, 75%, it actually measures two things. One is the innate capacity of the student, and the second is his application. The innate capacity is something he's born with. Why should we measure it? No two individuals will have the same innate capacity. So why should we compare? What's the relevance of that comparison? All we need to do is measure only the application and its quality. But that's extremely difficult to do, brings in subjective elements, far easier to give one consolidated number and get our job done with. So what does it mean to assess a student as a student, not in comparison to somebody else? That is the biggest challenge before educators today. We must also look at the industrial revolution, specialization that it is bringing to us, and what that implies. The first machine to be invented in the industrial revolution was the sewing machine. It's a great invention. It can stitch the way no human being can. But it can only stitch. It can't do anything else. That's the nature of specialization. The greater the specialization, the narrower the focus of worldview. So you can ultimately become a super specialist in just the wrist of the left thumb and not see that there's a human body at all. But look at how specialization is coming into our classrooms, even at a primary school level. So, a child has to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, nearly 9 subjects, 9 different teachers. Right? No two teachers are common. Now, I was asked to give personal examples. I have the time. Let me go into how I would approach this in a class, because this is from real life, right? I don't condemn examinations. We can't get away from them. We need to face the reality of that. We need to face the fact that there is an information explosion. We need to know how to handle it intelligently. So, we have these 9 subjects for the gate of the class 10 exam, and I have a different agenda apart from that. I want to communicate to the student the importance of eating right food. You know why. You know the kind of food we get today in the market and how that completely takes us over. I am responsible for my health, nobody else. And for that health, I need to know what is the right food for me. I want to give this message, but not as a lecture. So, whatever has to be done for the exam, I will connect it up to food and his health at every stage. How? It's very easy. Bread, I make whole wheat bread. Not this brown colored, white colored muck you get outside. Real whole wheat bread, right? So, it's easy to connect to English. There's enough poetry, there's enough literature on that. Mathematics, well, this is a cuboid, a rectangle. The challenge is, I've got a loaf tin which is circular, right? How would I measure out what should be the proportion by which I should reduce or increase the ingredients? So I brought in ratio, proportion, mensuration, volume. That's enough for the high school, if you can do that. Then we come to history. We talk about bread, its history. But then I would go into a more relevant example. What is the history of pizza? And what is served here in the name of pizza with that much cheese on it? Where has it come from? And is that really pizza? So I would look at that. Geography, easy. Bread, wheat, kharif, rabi, the climate, monsoon cycle, you have covered 90% of the geography required for class 10, right? And it's all connected. You come to physics. Simplest way we did it is, we built our own oven, which we could put on a gas, right? Because we didn't want to depend on electricity all the time. The challenge in an oven is you want the bread to cook on all sides, which means the temperature inside the oven has to be uniform. How do you do it? You have to understand convection. You have to understand how heat is transferred. Come to chemistry. Sweet is essential in our life, right? So what's the difference between jaggery and sugar? What is it that is dissolved in jaggery? What is it that you crystallize out of sugar into that deadly white poison, which is really causing our diabetes today? Biology, yeast. What is yeast? What is bacteria? Where is this myth coming that bacteria, the solution is antibiotics? We're already seeing superbugs all the time. What happens to our immune system? How do you strengthen that? That is our protection against illness. And if you come to second language, the way we do language today, I would bring out bread in India. Roti, naan, kulcha, paratha. I learnt about Khamiri roti when I investigated that. That's yeast. So every subject can be connected, it's living, and you are learning to tackle the exam. So again, humans and machines. Machines are similar to humans, they have a body, they have an energy field, they can even think today with artificial intelligence. They cannot discriminate and they don't have the capacity to be happy. Now, just look at the qualities of the human and the quality of the machine. Every quality of the machine is in our education today. Not one of those qualities of the human being comes into our system because it can't be structured into a syllabus. But care, affection, consideration, how do you develop these within education? And if you don't do it, what's the point? So, very clearly, one size does not fit all. It fits the institution, yes, because that's economics. But within that institutional frame, you have to find a way of communicating the information to the student on one-to-one and assessing him on a one-to-one basis as an individual. So what is the role of the teacher in this? And this is really the meat of this presentation. What's the role of the teacher? My understanding, a teacher has two roles. One is to point the direction. The student has to take the journey. I can't take it for him, but you point the direction. And the second is to give appropriate feedback. Now, all feedback is from the realm of thinking, which means comparison, judgment, measurement, projection. But can these four be given in an intelligent way? And it can. I'll illustrate it with a metaphor. Years ago, before the security in this country was the way it is today, I took a group of students to the air traffic control tower at Bangalore. And we sat in front of that control tower radar and watched an aircraft coming in. Every 30 seconds, the radar would hit that aircraft and its position would come on the screen. All the tower chief did was he told the pilot, turn to 279, turn 280, turn 279, turn 280, and he did it till the plane could reach and see the runway. He gave all these four. To give this, he had to compare, he had to judge, he had to measure, he had to project. There was no problem in giving that feedback. So is it possible to give very objective feedback like that? Where's the place of nature in education? Today a child, he doesn't climb a tree. Many places he doesn't have a space to run, right? He can't see the sky because there's too much light, too much smog, too much dust, right? Doesn't this have any place in education? So let's understand what the essence and features of Krishnamurti education are. Is it possible to educate a student without comparison? A student is an individual. Can we give him feedback at his level, not compare him with another student? That creates hurt. That hurt remains for the rest of his life and maybe even beyond. Is it possible to learn to live a life of not comparing? I've got a smaller car today, I need a bigger car. I have less money today, I need more. Is it possible to do that? Is it possible to educate a student to grow in goodness, to grow in all those qualities we said are peculiar to the human being? Is it possible to encourage a questioning mind, a mind that doesn't accept any information till it has opened it apart, understood, and then said, yes, I agree? A mind that always questions. Is it possible to understand that means and ends are not separate? Wrong means can only produce wrong ends. So the only thing that matters is my step today. If this step is right, everything must be right. Otherwise, nothing is going to be right. And Is it possible for the student to understand what is the place of nature? Is it ever possible to have your cake and eat it as well? Can you take one side of a coin and not take the other? How can you have all the material comforts which you want and then expect no impact on the environment? You can't. If you're concerned about the environment, you have to look at your own lifestyle first. Now, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But for tens of thousands of years, our sages have said, I am, therefore I think. And investigating that statement is the inward journey. The inward journey results in creativity. And only creativity can free a person from the boundaries and limitations. So every human being needs to be creative. Teachers need to be more creative than others. How do you bring about creativity in teachers? This is the difficult question. There's no escaping the fact that you have to walk the talk. I can't tell a student, don't smoke with a cigarette in my hand. Won't make any meaning. So if I am saying, don't compare, first in my own life, no comparison. If I say, look, don't live a life of more, wanting more, I have to live that way. That is walking the talk. There's no getting away from the fact that I have to live what I want to communicate. If I live what I want to communicate, perhaps I don't have to give any lectures about it. And this is my last point. How do you get the kind of teachers that you want? How does a plant bloom? You put the seed, you water it, the sun falls, and then what is inside the seed comes out. That's the same way that you develop teachers anywhere. Thank you very much.